If you've stumbled upon a podcast about a 90s Nickelodeon sitcom featuring two brothers, and one of the brothers is shorter than the other and has less facial hair, then my name would be Aaron. That doesn't really... Keep it. Go out.
The other brother in that situation, who is half an inch taller and 1 to 2 millimeters longer of beard, is named Adam.
And that podcast we were talking about is Keenan and Kell with Adam and Aaron, the 90s Nickelodeon sitcom review podcast of, you guessed it, Kenan and Kell.
Yes. Now that we've ended our tenure, and we are doing some wonderful top 10s, and I really like the energy of going through this list, Aaron. It felt it had that same retrospective punch that our series review had.
Yeah. And so this episode is about Kenan's schemes, his top 10 schemes. And so I think we should call it Schemin' a retrospective. But I think you've titled every other episode, so you can choose the title for this one too. I'm not going to steal your thunder.
It's all SEO based, but no, that I'm with you that this as we know, as Coolio points out every episode, Kenan be scheming
with a plan or a plot to make it to the top, but they're always getting caught. Wait,
they're kind of in the middle because they're always getting caught.
Yeah, like Nancy Drew.
Do you skip the intro? Is that what we're learning? 60 episodes in.
Do you think that I went back and watched all 10 episodes from
your list?
I wish I did, but
yeah, no, I mean,
we're gonna pretend that I did.
The series is so written into my brain right now that I could literally just sit and watch any of these episodes if I wanted to.
Yeah,
that's how I made this list of all 62 or so. Actually, it's fewer than that. There's some episodes that there are no schemes whatsoever.
Yeah, the terrible episodes. No, I'm just playing. Adam, there's actually a great old story about somebody who was actually a prisoner of war in World War II. And he was captured for many years in, I forget which country, Japan maybe. But he loved to golf before he was a soldier. And so as he was captured, what he did was he would close his eyes because he had nothing else to do, and he would play through his favorite course back home.
Oh.
And then eventually the war ended, and he came home, and after being traumatized by this experience, he eventually went to the golf course and he played, and I think he took 10 strokes off his game because he'd run it through so many times. So I feel like that would be the same situation with us and Kenan and Kell if we were ever prisoners of war. We'd probably just watch the whole series in our brains.
Yeah, no, I would do that with pretty much every show I know.
You have a good memory, right? You have a lot of free entertainment.
I'm made to be a prisoner of war.
What?
I'm built that way.
What? Oh, that's wonderful. It's a great mentality.
Before we get too deep into the episode, I want to mention, let's talk about some Kenan and Kell news.
With Linda Ellerby.
That is the theme that I play for this segment.
Is it?
The Nick News theme.
Oh, that's great.
So I called this topic Worlds Collide. Kenan and Kell writer Wayne Connolly, you might recognize his name from Corporate Kenan? Yeah, one of the co-workers is named after him.
Of course.
He has been greenlit by CBS for a live-action adaptation.
Kenan and Kell. Sorry.
The comic strip Jumpstart.
Ah.
You might recognize it from the Sunday paper. It's created by Philadelphian Rob Armstrong in 1989.
I wonder if Rob has strong arms.
He does. It's the most successful syndicated comic strip by a black cartoonist.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and there's a lot of, if you've read it before, there's a lot of Philadelphia energy to it. There's often Eagles characters and.
Oh, no way! I was unaware of it, but thank you for bringing it to our attention, Adam.
Yeah, so it's the first occasion that Kenan and Kell the series has really crossed paths with Philadelphia.
Well, this is maybe that's our next review podcast.
You're reading through the comic strip Jumpstart.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Not the live action show, but the. The comic strip. Yeah, that's great. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Good job, Wayne.
It's cool to see other like members of the Kenan and Kell family get new projects.
Always a good thing.
Speaking of, Biagio Messina. That's the name of the...
Mark Cram!
Right. Yes, that's his full American...
I believe that's Messina.
Messina. Biagio Messina.
There you go.
And American's wrong. This Italian man. He has a podcast with his wife, whose name is Joke.
This sounds familiar.
Yes, I pointed this out a couple times, but we haven't mentioned the show. It's called Producing Unscripted. They run a production company where they do kind of like indie films and TV shows and stuff like that.
Very cool.
So they have a contact page as well. So Aaron, now that the school year's over, I would like to task you.
Oh yeah.
With reaching out to Biagio and Joke.
CONTACT.
To see if he wants.
I got it, Adam. I got it. I got a whole. I'm gonna go buy a new composition notebook, and I'm gonna write down all the things that I am gonna do.
Or make a list like Kenan might
yes.
in repairing Chris's home.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna house sitter this summer.
Yeah, so if you, that's the top of the list. Reach out to Biagio, see if he wants to talk about his tenure as Mark Cram.
His experience as Mark Cram. I will absolutely do that, especially because he'll be familiar with podcasting.
Oh yeah,
Biagio, we're coming your way.
So without further ado, let's get into our top 10 Kenan schemes. So I sent you a very important text message before this. That was very neurotic. Is probably the word for it. But I'm like, it's not the top 10 best schemes or top 10 worst schemes. It's like our top 10 favorites.
Yes, right.
Because oftentimes these blow up in Kenan's face in a grandiose way.
Oh, they're not successful by any means.
There are some that are successful, which is, as I was going through the list, I was like, does that more valuable or not?
Yeah, because some of them were in Kenan's favor and Kell's favor, and some of them were not. But they were all schemes. And so, yes, we definitely ranked them by favorite. And I would say the way that I ranked them is, like I do many things in these rankings, most memorable, or really just like the best kind of sequence of events. To pull off some of these schemes in a 20-minute episode is actually really impressive.
Yes.
With putting all the pieces together, and so it takes a whole. If we were to do like the whole thing, we would have to talk about the whole episode most likely for each one, which we're not going to do. But we're going to talk about the plot of the scheme, and that's kind of what I judged it off of, like how complete and just hilarious was it from start to finish.
Yeah, good call. I think that I was definitely, personally, I felt myself pushing away a little bit from some of our favorite episodes. We just did that in our series review when we talked about all of those. So I wanted to reach as often like to some more obscure schemes in lesser episodes that might I think shine out. But beyond that, I do what I normally do and made a bunch of complicated criteria that I judged like every scheme that he's ever had up by. The acronym that I used is called SCHEME.
Oh my god.
It's a bad acronym. There's a lot of dropped words in this, but it stands for Scot-Free Celebrity or Hard Cash Endeavor for Maximum Entertainment.
Adam, that has to be the worst acronym I've ever encountered.
Yes.
What? Scot-free?
Scot-free. Celebrity or hard cash. Those are the three things that characterize Kenan's like most base wants in this world. Like he either wants to get not in trouble, get famous, or get rich.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So that's part of the criteria. There's also, I included one for desire. Like it's a real deep personal desire or deep romantic desire. That counts as characterized Kenan to me.
Or a life goal.
Yes, exactly. The other two are endeavor and entertaining. So if there's a lot of efforts that he puts into this, that he's going, all out in making the scheme work, that gets points.
Yeah, that's similar to mine.
Yeah. And the last one is entertaining. If it makes me laugh and have a good time.
Of course. Yeah, so you just took the more analytical approach, and me being just done the school year, I'm not grading anything else.
The funny thing is it's a 15-point scale, so like 7 of these scored like the same, like
Why
7,
15?
13 points.
What do you do? What are you doing?
Well, characterized, endeavor, and entertaining, they're all 5 points.
Oh my gosh.
So-
Okay, got it.
But yeah, no, I ended up with like, I had to put like 4 on the close call list.
I wish we could add an infographic. If only we had a functioning Instagram page.
Yeah. Well, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, I will. So number 10, Scheme.
Mm-hmm.
This comes from season 4 classic, when Kenan gets really jazzed up about the prospect of having his own place and being free from the binds of his parents' home. Something that I think many of us have felt, but I think the way that this episode goes about, Kenan achieving the scheme is pretty exceptional. Maybe it deserves to be higher on the list, but yeah, from the honeymoon's over, when when they participate in the Newlyweds show and Cal dresses up as a woman, and they almost win a house.
Like the most far-fetched scenario I think the show has gotten into.
Absolutely, and I think it probably deserves a higher spot than 10, but I'm sure it's on your list somewhere. Maybe it's even like close to the top. I'm not gonna spoil anything. And you're probably like, Aaron, what are you doing putting that at 10? But the episode, like looking back, it's a great episode, but there was always something missing from that episode, and I don't know what it was.
I think just in the nature of being a season 4 episode.
Yeah, and so it doesn't, because it's funny, but then it's so frustrating because we know how it ends.
Yeah, I think a lot of my episodes are from seasons 2 and 3. Like I think that's where the peak scheming happened.
Agreed.
His schemes in season 1 are often, they didn't take a full episode. They're very short. Mm-hmm. And if they did, it wasn't out of this world. But anyway, my number 10 is going to be an incident involving a celebrity named Bill Bellamy.
This is a good scheme.
And in Picture in Perfect, Kenan has to replace all the photos in the in like the school because they were destroyed by Kell. Half the photos of the whole class. So he uses Bill Bellamy, a celebrity that's in town, to aim the camera at all his classmates whose photos being taken with them. And it's the complications are very fun, and it's a plan that works out for the most part pretty well. I'll be honest.
It's impressive how they actually got everybody to show up, and they got most everybody's picture, right? Or everybody.
And the cool part about the scheme is that before this final step, before it, he tried out other stuff too. He ran through the school with his camera, scaring people, and it's a really fun montage earlier in the episode.
And a great Biagio episode.
Oh yeah, Biagio, probably the best Mark Kreb episode, honestly. But
yeah.
we'll save that for our top 10 Mark eps.
Yeah, so I understand that from the celebrity perspective, and also from the the amount that was achieved in a short amount of time. Like, it was definitely the what's that, enthusiasm or whatever. Endeavor. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a great scheme. Bill Bellamy.
My number 9 is from the episode 3 Girls, a Guy in a Cineplex. His plan to date 3 girls at the same time. It's fine if this is higher on the list. This could easily be all the way up to my number 5. But I think the part of this that kind of falls apart is that his scheme is very ill thought out.
Yes, and ill executed.
Yeah, and the entire time it's him making terrible excuses that his dates luckily shrug off. But for why he's wearing 3D glasses, or why he doesn't have popcorn, what happened to his jackets. It's a very fun episode that's incredibly entertaining. As far as schemes go, it's like he should have just hired someone to play Kenan, or something insane like that.
Yeah, this is a great scheme as well, except there isn't much scheming done. It's kind of an accident that it happens.
It's all reactive.
Right.
And it's just him being tossed into a situation and forced to kind of sink or swim.
Right.
Which I think my favorite schemes of Kenan's are the ones where he's the most active in them. Where
he's planning, and
you can see him
plotting.
working the wheel to plot stuff.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
That's why I wanted to give it a shout out lower the list.
Well, that's fair. That's a fair shout out. I'm glad you included those 2 episodes, because it seems like we're going to have a nice mix here.
Good.
Yeah, my number 9 is one of my favorite episodes of all time. and one of my favorite schemes when when Keenan and Kell tried to salvage a very unflattering picture of Principal Dimley from her office after hours.
Yes.
This is every single time I would walk into the school building, which I worked in for 2 years, and I'd see that little tiny half window over the door. I would think of this moment, and so that was every day. Every day I am thinking about this moment. And they break in the IQ Can Do Better episode, and they break in, and they just cause a havoc. And then she comes back in the office and takes her shoes off. It's really not a well thought out plan, but they made it very far.
Yeah, they did, and they got like the only incident, the biggest problem they ran into is Kell, of course, as often happens in these. But Kell like screws them over like 3 or 4 times trying to solve this in a very short, like the back half of the episode, honestly.
Right, and I think that is one of the things that makes a good Kenan scheme. It's like it actually would have worked. If it wasn't for Kell, because that's I honestly don't remember our final tally with whose fault was it. If it was more Kenan or more Kell, but
more Kenan, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
The final count was more Kenan, and so Kenan has the schemes, but then Kell makes them worse. That's classic Kenan and Kell, so that's why I made my number 9 spot.
Yeah, no, and Kell like kicked this one off too. He like left the caricature in there signed by like with Kenan's name on it.
Yeah, right. Framing his best friend in the worst possible way.
Yeah. And
it also features Principal Dimley, who is a great supporting character.
I'm so glad she came back for that go round.
Yeah, no, I love her character because it's a great principal character, It's
a classic principal character. She's got a name that can be easily made fun of by the kids. Like I think was it Doug had the principal's name was Butt Savage.
Oh my god, those '90s shows, man, they did not hold back.
No, I think it was in the last episode too, is when they finally revealed his name. So it's like right on the way out, they snuck that in.
That's hilarious.
What's your number 8?
My number 8 is in my opinion, the best movie theater episode, which is why the other one wasn't included on my list. It's not even the best movie theater episode, so in my opinion. And it's one of the most iconic moments in Kenan and Kell. Season 3, episode 1, Fenced In, where they are... Kenan really is trying not to mess this up. He really is trying to scheme, but he's not trying to scheme in a big and grandiose way to get rich or to meet somebody famous or get famous. But he is just scheming to try to not mess things up for once.
Yeah.
And so he pulls out the whole map of the town in his room, like in Kell's instructing. He says, the only thing that can mess this up, and he rips it off, is a picture of Kell. It's like this. That is, I love that moment. I love this scene. And then of course, they get their head stuck in a fence, or Kenan gets his head stuck in a fence, which did not need to happen. But it's a Kenan scheme, which is so simple.
Yeah, we talk about that episode a lot. He's so meta. It's so meta and perfect because the scheme, what happens is exactly as he calls it out. The scheme was so good that it was honest.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that really it captures the essence of the schemes so well because they're always about big things, and this one isn't. And it's like, well, and in that you can experience the other scheme. So Fenced In, number 8 on my list.
Yeah, good picks. Number 8 for me is from the episode You Dirty Rat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where Kenan, the second half of this episode is fully devoted after his nightmare where he envisions himself as Wendell the rat. He pledges to protect all rats forever and shows off like a series of schemes like that's on a time limit. They're trying to get this pulled off before the exterminator comes in to capture Wendell. He's got a couple steps beforehand, like, there's like I think the fly paper that he lays out. You see him like go through to the point where he's like exhausted at the end of the day, all these different strategies, and finally he sets off the stink bomb and the gas-proof suits to finally get him, and he succeeds. It's a scheme that works off, and it speaks to his deep personal desire to protect all rats forever.
Adam, thank you for giving this episode and this series of schemes, really. It's due credit. It made an honorable mention on my list.
Okay.
Because it was, it's a great scheme. It's a great episode, an underrated episode, and so thank you for giving it its day in the sun.
You're welcome. Speaking of exterminating, my number 7 is Attack of the Bugmen.
A great pick. Yeah. A great pick.
Yeah, and that once again, it's an entire half of the episode is devoted to this. The problem happened. All their stuff got stolen out of their house because they left the door open. It's really fun going through these plots, like in such
really quickly. It's like, oh my god, what?
All their stuff was stolen. So Kenan has to delay his parents for as long as possible in the restaurant, and he uses every method like in the book, including ordering a astronomical number of pizzas for him and Kell to eat, tricking Kyra into ordering the ice cream barge.
The barge.
Which he, spills on them. He hides his dad's wallet, makes them, wash dishes, and then even after that, he's still like, can we get, a soda or something, on the way out? So all these steps to stop them from going home. So he gets a 5 for endeavor on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well deserved. He really was relentless in his. He's like, I am not letting my parents.
And it kicks off with him calling the cops and getting them on the case, and it was fully his fault, the situation, because he left the door open. But in order to not get in trouble, he goes through every possible hoop that he can. So it's a good number 7.
I would agree. Great pick there, Adam.
Thanks. Your number 7.
I think this will be on your list because it is perhaps your favorite episode. When it's time for Thanksgiving, and the turkey doesn't quite work out.
Yes, that's higher on my list.
Much higher on your list. So I'm gonna save that for you to go over because I want to hear your breakdown of the scheme. But obtain a cooked turkey for Thanksgiving during the Turkey Day episode is absolutely on my list. It's number 7. Could it be a little higher? Sure. This is an arbitrary list, but I think I think there's some other ones that really hold a special place in my heart. Mm-hmm. And that's how I rate things.
Hey, that's what makes this a good program.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about this in a second because I want to hear Adam's perspective. But that's my number 7. Number 6, another great one, involving the kitchen at the Rockmore residence. It is popularize Kenan's cold remedy and make a fortune in the cold. This is one of the best examples of Kenan really doing what he can to use his entrepreneurial spirit and create a product that people need, and then he wants to try to sell it, and so he makes it happen somewhat, and it doesn't go well, but he certainly tries, and that's just the whole concoction, rediscovering what the formula was.
I give this a 5 for characterization because it's not just him seeking fame and fortune. It's also he messes up and has to struggle to not get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's every possible thing that Kenan could want happens here.
Right. Exactly. And what I do like about this episode too is it's actually a pretty good what do you call it?
Parable?
Yeah, pretty good parable, right? The people who make medicine, it's the health component of it kind of comes secondary to the fame and fortune.
Yeah, there's also a scientific reading of this where it's take good notes when you're experimenting. Definitely.
Yeah, you want to make sure you know what's going into the experiment.
A lot of great inventions of our world came from that. I read about this recently, the matchstick. It was a person that was an apothecary using a mortar and pestle. And something caught on fire when he was doing it. It's oh, that's cool. I can put that on any kind of little wooden stick here. He learned that 3 years after the lighter was invented.
After?
Yes. That's a fun trivia fact for you.
That is fun, yeah. You're preparing for Quizzo over here.
Yeah, right.
Who invented the matchstick?
I've been watching too many reels to... So my attention span's been shortened incredibly.
Yeah, welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah.
As long as you know a lot of things, and that's all that matters.
That was your number 6?
That was my number 6. Yes.
All right.
Cold War.
Well, my number 6 is one that an episode we haven't talked about in a little bit, and I think it's I wanted to bring it up because I love the scheme. When Kenan tries to dupe a girl into thinking that he's rich in the limo.
This is a good scheme.
Yeah, because it starts off with him passing himself off as rich, but he goes really the extra mile to prove all this. He rents a tux, he rents a limo and a limo driver, and Cal messes things up, and he has to stall, and it's very similar to the last one, Attack of the Bugman. With his date's parents for as long as possible, and the way he does, it's just him. Kel's on the outside doing his thing, so we just see Kenan alone in his elements, just trying to talk about stocks and bonds,
chopping it up,
trading, passing himself off to a real estate man that he also works in real estate.
Yeah, he has to actually pretend to be somebody he's not in front of real people.
Yeah,
not just easily fooled people like Chris.
No, it's funny to see him have to combat a scheme against actual adults.
Right. It's oh yeah, I know. Finances and mortgages and
so that's my number 6.
That's a great scheme, Adam. Thanks for pulling that one out.
Thank you. My number 5 is only number 5 on my list because I thought the characterization doesn't match any of his major goals. It's a little bit about not getting in trouble, but it's not about rich fame or desire. But it is about him not having to go to school and perform a song and dance, or go into work and take inventory. This is Kenan Schemes in Ditch Day Afternoon.
This is one of the best episodes.
It absolutely is. From a scheme perspective, I've ranked it a little lower, just because it's mostly about him not getting in trouble, but in a crazy cool way. They're playing hooky. They go to the bank to get money, but a bank robbery happens. So Kenan,
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just, and it's such a friendly bank robbery, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
This is totally kid-friendly. That's the best part about it.
And so Kenan has to shift goals, and instead of what any normal sitcom would be is oh man, we got to get out of this bank. He's basically siding with the bank robbers too, because he doesn't want to get exposed on the news.
Yeah, because the news cameras are all out.
So
no, you have to make this happen.
Would a fat man give up in the middle of a sandwich? Yeah, no.
That's a great one-liner.
Yeah, so Ditch Day Afternoon is my number 5.
That made honorable mention for me.
Okay, good.
So I'm just throwing my honorable mentions out as we go.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, that's a wonderful episode, and pretty successful scheme until the very end.
Yeah. Yes. Right. The worst thing that happened to him is that the bank robbers had its change of heart. That's what foiled his scheme.
That's a good one right there. So number 5 for me is another episode where Kenan did not want to go to school, except this time he settles for a corporate job instead. This is Corporate Kenan, when season 4, episode 1, when Kenan tries to pass himself off as the vice president of none other than Dim Sum Enterprises. What they do, we do not know. But in this episode, Kenan goes all out, pretending to be somebody else. Identity fraud, definitely.
Yes.
But he ends up with his own office with Kell as his secretary, and he has to then give a presentation. He has no idea what he's doing, but he got pretty far.
Yeah,
he got really far.
He got so far, and he's just really spinning his wheels at the end. I give this one a 5 for entertaining, just because of how much he tries to do to just learn what their role in this position is.
And honestly, as a young professional, the imposter syndrome that Kenan faced is something that it was well captured.
Yeah.
Because that's a real thing. That's of
course.
I have a job. Did they really look at the right resume?
Yeah, no. This one didn't make my list. It was in my top 20, but it didn't make my list because it was very reactive in the situation. But let me tell you, he was reactive to get into it, but he was proactive trying to get out, trying to pull it off as long as he could.
That's right. I put it up there for the sheer fact that he was there. Like, and people treated him like the vice president.
Yeah, despite being 17.
Is it time for 4?
Yep, time for 4.
This is one of the most memorable moments of Keenan and Kell, and the most referenced episode in our podcast. When Kenan decides to profess his love to Brianna atop the Sears Tower.
Yes, accomplishing all of his life goals
at once. And this, why is this so high on my list? This isn't really a scheme. I think it's because of the heart behind it. It's Kenan wants to do something. And it's one of the first times that he actually like has this idea of like pursuing through a strategy and through different things, different steps, taking steps to achieve a goal, literally. And he goes and he hangs a sign for professing his love to Brian, not Brianna, at the top of the Sears Tower. And he gets stuck, and Kell makes it worse. And it's just a great moment. And I think in terms of Kenan Schemes, like, it's really as simple as that. He has an idea and he wants to make it happen, and so he does.
We were talking about proactive versus reactive before, and this is very much him like going out of his way to try and do things the Hemingway and kind of getting burnt in the process.
Just like Hemingway.
Yes. Ooh.
Yikes.
Yeah, and it didn't make my list, but I totally see the scheme. The scheme there is very good.
And Adam, it's hard for me to not include some of these original episodes in my lists.
Well, you're going by feel and heart, and the ones that stand out, they stand out, and
memorability, and come on, like, this is just a great moment in Kenan and Kell. So
yeah,
that's my number 4.
My number 4 you've mentioned already, Turkey Day.
Let's hear it, Adam.
Kenan has to replace the turkey that Kell ate. And his methods for it begin with calling up a turkey man and having them delivered to his place. They deliver 2 live turkeys. Okay, fine. The scheme must go on. He sneaks out, goes to Rigby's, steals an uncooked turkey, brings it back. I'm sorry. Even before this, he food compresses like turkey and puts it on the bones.
Yeah. Grab some turkey.
Yeah. He gets a turkey, but only has like a little bit of time to cook it. So he puts a microwave in an oven. It explodes. He's not deterred yet. He runs to where Chris is having Thanksgiving dinner and steals his turkey
from Les Meats.
He's so tenacious. This is a 5 on the Endeavor scale. It's entertaining as all heck, and it's perfectly in his he doesn't want to get in trouble so badly that he goes through all these hoops.
Well, Turkey Day is of course a great episode, but I do love that it actually works. It actually works, and all while hosting extended family, which is not an easy thing to do.
No.
But somehow, like, he recruits Kyra to help this effort, and then like the parents aren't home, and the kids have to take care of the guests, and you're just like, I don't know what to do with these people. Like, what do you do with these people? And then they can't even go in the kitchen to get food, and they're all hungry. And so I think overall it's like a really excellent effort on behalf of the young people in the family, to, of course, they ruined it, but to also make Thanksgiving something that the family can remember forever.
The scheme has a good heart to it. He's trying to make his family happy.
Yeah, and provide for Thanksgiving dinner. It's a little bit of that. I feel like the turkey a lot of times is like the man's thing to do. It's like, I'm gonna make the turkey. I'm gonna air fry this turkey. We
know Roger. He loves his birds.
Absolutely, he does. Twizzles and the turkey. And so I think this is almost like maybe a little bit of Kenan kind of trying on this fatherly role or this manhood role where he's trying to provide for the family, and he really doesn't stop until he does. So
no, he does not.
So I commend Kenan for this. Failure was not an option here. Top 3 here. Top 3.
Yeah, top 3 territory.
Roll.
Not an episode we talk about a lot. Foul Bull.
All right.
When Kenan infiltrates the hospital to seek Ron Harper's public forgiveness. My last
honorable mention. Great pick, Adam.
Oh, thanks. This episode's all about how they're like the most hated people in Chicago, him and Kell, because of this incident in Rigby's when Ron Harper slips on orange soda. Famous Bulls player Ron Harper.
Thank you.
So his scheme involves them dressing up like a doctor and a pregnant lady, going to the hospital and just going along with it for as long as he can, which it ends up. This is top 3 material. The scheme ends with him delivering Kell's baby.
Yeah, no, it's such a great skit, and I do love like when they get further than they thought they would.
Yes,
because it's one of those things where it's like it's really hard to make an apology.
Right.
And to ask for forgiveness. Like, that's what they wanted. They wanted Ron Harper to forgive them publicly in front of the whole city or something. But then, like, so that, you know what you want, but you don't know how you're going to ask for it.
And the other funny part about it is that they kind of skip over the just going to the hospital and, like, getting turned down parts. They immediately, from our perspective, their plan A is, all right, dress up like a doctor and a nurse and go in.
Yeah, like, they can't just go in as guests.
No,
because they're so hated.
It's a fun couple scenes in an episode that is the scheme like that. It saves the day technically. It gets them inside the hospital and it gets them in at the right place.
I think I showed this episode to my students one day and they just didn't care. And I was like, guys, this is comedy gold.
Yes,
this is hilarious. Don't you love Ron Harper?
Tell me you were 3 and 2.
My number 3. I would imagine this is on your list. Season 2, episode 1. When maybe it's not. When Kenan hires 2 strangers to pretend to be his parents, and then he brings them to the conference with the principal.
Yes, it did not make my list.
Oh my gosh! What? This is the all-time scheme.
It's a classic scheme. I think I knocked it for a couple points because I've heard this one before.
Okay.
I'm not saying Kenan doesn't do a phenomenal job with it, and like it eventually evolves into him hosting his principal while these crazy actors are like surrounding him, making his life miserable.
You know, I'm a Keenan and Kell purist, and so from the Keenan and Kell perspective, it is hilarious that Kenan actually hired people to stand in for his parents. I mean, of course, like this is it's an old trick, but this is a hilarious episode. The people who play Roger and Cheryl do a great job while also doing a terrible job.
Yes.
It could not be more of an anxiety provoking episode. like it's really like, because this is not a trivial matter that Kenan's trying to do. This is like an expulsion type material. And he's playing it off and it almost works. And so I think this is a great scheme. I love the similarities between the guy playing Roger and Kell, and like their banter back and forth. Because there's again an initial plan, and then he gets further than he thinks he would get. And he has no idea what's going on.
That seems to be the makings of a good scheme, is when he gets too far and he has to half's planning and half's like improvising.
Right, and it's just excellent. So, yeah, that's my number 3.
All right, and your 2.
My number 2. It's again a very simple scheme that gets way too far. And I'll say it as Kenan does. We will sue the fish folk.
That is also my number 2.
Oh, great. And it's the number 2 episode of the season and the number 2 best scheme. We are going to sue the fish folk. And that's what they do. They sue the fish folk for $10 million.
For the screw that Kenan found in his tuna.
We have the famous Kell scene where Kell just simply cannot tell a lie. It's a real boundary between ethics in this early stage of Kenan and Kell.
Sure.
It's so glorious. The courtroom scene is so glorious.
It's incredible. And I say it all the time. The Kenan parts of the courtroom leading up to it, when he's like, and I, the plaintiff, like winks. And he's like, evidence number 1, it's a screw. Evidence number 2, it's a can of tuna.
And that's really all they need.
Yeah. No, it's all those bits. I love it. It's like right at the top of my list because it is a whole episode scheme.
Yeah, exactly.
from like the first scene to the final scene, it's all about his relationship with this court case and how like he like pushes back on a settlement that's given to him, and he's like practicing like speaking to the jury with Kell, and the second episode ever. It's amazing that they hit it's so out of the park so soon.
I think like it is really funny because they think that they're going to show up with the real legal team, and who knows who their parents are and what kind of money they have, and they just show up and it's just them.
Yeah, it's just like, the two of them in court.
What a great scheme! Like, oh man, like that's so close.
It's about he like represents himself. He does like a press conference, remember, where he makes up all these symptoms. Like, once again, if this was a real court case, he'd be screwed.
Oh yeah, and of course, I mean, it was Kell's fault. Like,
yes, no,
he dropped the screw in the tuna. I mean, that's as simple as it gets.
He didn't speak up at any point.
Yes, such a good scheme. Yeah, because of the irony there, the dramatic irony. Except we don't even know that he dropped the screw. It's like only Kell knows, and he keeps this secret hidden for way too long, and it just foils Kenan's plans. Foreshadowing of many other schemes.
I am fascinated to know what your number one is. But first, we've already mentioned my number one, so I'm going to mention it. So I'm going to bring it up now.
Please do.
The honeymoon's over.
Yes, good.
Yeah,
good.
No, this is my favorite Kenan scheme. Like, it's him, like at the greatest heights where he is, like, he has to marry Kell. Like, you can't get better than that. He has to marry Kell, and they perform on like a program, and they have to interview, and just the whole time he is hating this scheme that he's come up with. Like, he is fully against it. But he wants that house, like a true desire of his to obtain this richness at such a young age, that he'll jump through any hurdles involved, including marrying his best friend legally.
Yeah, so I think maybe this should be higher on my list, but because I threw it out there as the first one, and it's your number 10, or no, your number 1, my number 10. Agreed. It is a full episode scheme. It is just outlandish. And it just keeps getting like more intense and more intense, and then they're down to one question, and then they win a house.
Yeah, no, they.
Like it almost works until
he pulls out all the stops to make this happen.
This is really a season 4 screw in the tuna moment.
I would say so. Yeah, it's in the same part of the season, the second episode, and and I think it goes one beyond when it comes to how entertaining, and just it tied for screw in the tuna with me. It was personal choice that I put it all the way at the top here.
I had a 15 out of 15 for you.
Yes. So tell me, Aaron, what is your number 1?
Adam, it is just one of my favorite moments in the show. And it has to do with the lot, but one of the things it has to do with is Kenan's relationship with his father. And our most listened to podcast, maybe still?
Possibly. I think people dip into the pilot a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the most. Diamonds Are for Roger, season 1, episode 7, where Kenan tries to return the jewelry that he believes his father stole from the jewelry store. Right? That's the plot, right?
That's the plot, yeah.
And it ends up with them in scuba gear, propelling. What's the word? Yeah, rappelling from the ceiling, and eventually getting caught. In the safe with the jewelry thief. It's just a whole mess. And again, I like just Kenan's honest. This is one of those honest schemes where Kenan is he's so concerned about his father, and so
his heart's in the right place.
He uses his knowledge and his resources to save his dad's life. His dad, who is clearly this jewelry thief. So it's just this honesty with this innocence, and then this absolute absurdity of these two guys just rappelling into a jewelry store after hours and trying to return jewelry that his father rightfully purchased.
That is pretty crazy that like the 5th episode, the 6th episode, Kenan's like his plan is a like reverse heist.
Yeah.
Like that's his scheme, which is it's a good first pick.
And it's I mean, it's right up there with the burglary. Really, it's there's a lot of burglary in this show because that's an easy crime to kind of joke around with.
It's an innocent crime, I'd say.
Burglary. And so that's my number one scheme, just because I can't watch that episode and not laugh, and it almost works. Except for the fact that
technically it would have worked just fine if his dad was the Diamond Bandit.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Except he got that part wrong, which I thought was a nice twist to this Kenan Schemes.
The flaw of the scheme wasn't like the scheme itself. You said that you covered most of your close calls?
Yeah, my honorable mentions were Foul Bowl, You Dirty Rat, Ditch Day Afternoon. My fourth one, which I think we should just throw out there,
sure.
Dial O for Oops.
Yes, that's a very good scheme.
Yes, where Kenan has to sneak back in after making a blunder on the answering machine.
I'll go over my 4 real fast here, because we covered one of them, Fenced In. That's 13. 11 is He Got Job, when Kell's got a job and he uses that position to try and posit new donut creations.
A good scheme.
Yeah.
Would have worked if they didn't break the magical donut machine.
The Graduates is on here. Convincing his family that he's walking for graduation.
We all know somebody who's done that.
Yeah, it ends with him like faking a commencement speech,
which
and then he's improvising on the spot.
Yeah,
wearing like the wrong color robe and the last one here is the lottery. When him trying to get the lottery ticket back from Mrs. Quagmire.
That's a very good scheme.
Yeah, it's him. Oh, I spilled my cocoa, and all the different steps there. So these are fun lists. That's a good trip down memory lane.
I think so, and hopefully our new Netflix listeners or watchers tune in for the best schemes so they can jump around a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They can experience some of the best of Kenan and Kell. Those were Kenan schemes to get them out of trouble, and with varying amounts of success. Would you like to come with me, Aaron, to the Fanta Cam?
I would.
We got a very special letter this week from Nicholas from Brazil.
All right, here is the letter from Nicholas. Hello, Adam and Aaron. My name is Nicholas. I'm 27 and a Fanta all the way from Brazil. I just finished listening to all of the episodes of the podcast Keenan and Kell with Adam and Aaron. It was an awesome time, and now I feel like we are close friends, even if you don't know me, haha. Since English is not my main language, it was very helpful for me to improve it. I also enjoy your English accent. I loved every single episode of the podcast and took the time to rewatch all the show with the original audio in English, of course. It was a whole new experience for me because back in the time they couldn't properly translate some of the jokes to Portuguese, maybe because of the language barrier. Keenan and Kell is for sure my favorite sitcom and a huge part of my infancy. The best episodes for me are The Raffle and Attack of the Bugmen. He's a fan of your taste. He's acquired your taste, Adam.
He's learned all my words, and now he's acquired my taste.
That's right. But he really sees the world through your lens. He says, but I have a deep connection with all of them. Thanks for the time reading my email, for all the laughs and good moments I had listening to you guys. P.S. Dropping a link right down below so you can check a scene dubbed in Portuguese. Thanks one more time, and see you next time. Well, thank you, Nicholas. I am humbled that you learned English from us. I'm also very worried.
Yes, I would like to apologize for our Phillyisms.
I guess that's fine, right? Right, if you're going to learn another language, you don't just want to learn general English, right? You learn a dialect. You learned a little fast-talking Philly accent, or Philly suburb accent.
According to Wesley, we talk like everyone, like in America. So I think we're fine.
It's a good Northeast accent.
I'll share the clip that he sent us online awesome. on Twitter.
Awesome.
So, but real cool that our episodes span all over the planet.
It is very cool.
Well, a good job for correctly identifying like how negative a parasocial relationship could be. That's your vocab word for today, Nicholas.
Yes.
But we are honored that you've joined the ranks of the Fantas. And we welcome to please send us more and tell us about your favorite Kenan schemes.
Yeah, please let us know your favorite schemes, ones that we left out, and even your lists if you'd like. Adam, do you have anything else for this episode?
I think it's time to send us home.
Next week, we have our favorite Keenan and Kell moments in store. So you definitely want to tune into that one. Give yourself a little episode list to go off of in case you don't want to watch in order.
And you can send us your favorite Kenan and Kell moments at KeenanandKellPodcast@gmail.com or at Kenan and Kell Podcasts on Twitter.
Well, Adam, it's been a pleasure scheming with you. And
Yes.
until next time, here it goes.
Thank you for listening. You can send us an email at KeenanandKellPodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/KeenanandKellPodcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at Kenan and Kell Podcast.